Sir.
I guess I had two questions, actually, if
All right.
that's okay. If not, I'll just ask one. But if we go through with your plan of legalizing marijuana,
Right.
and then we, in your words, tax the shit out of it,
Yeah.
what are we going to do with the addicts that can't afford the taxed marijuana? I know, it seems like there's a logical nexus. Well, if we destigmatize marijuana, then they'll feel compelled to go through with the treatment programs.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's missing the point that if you're addicted, you're going to want to smoke again.
Mm-hmm.
So can we not assume that it will only revert back to violence if the addicts cannot afford the taxed marijuana?
That's an interesting question. I'm not, first off on marijuana, I think the addictive potential of marijuana is extremely low. You hear occasionally people will say I'm addicted to marijuana. Not like cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, Oxycontin. The addictive potential for marijuana is relatively low. I don't think we can, how far do we extend that? There's thousands of products out there that people have a relative ability to afford, and we cannot. I don't think we're ever going to have leveled the playing field for everybody using tax money so everybody has equal access to Bentleys. I just don't think it's practical economically. So if there's some charity that you or some other folks want to set up to provide free marijuana to folks that can't afford it, God love you. Have at it. Second question?
Yeah. Going back to your comment that you're not for everybody in Athens having a backyard full of pot.
Right.
Why are you saying that if we were to legalize marijuana, we can't then go all the way as you had suggested in the previous analogy of going from making out meth and sex?
How many people here would buy bathtub gin? Do we have bathtub gin anymore? We don't, because we've got a system of controls in place that allowing individual entrepreneurs. Now, you can be an individual entrepreneur and sell it to the system, the marketplace, to do that, and maybe even you can become the Sam Adams of marijuana. I don't have any problem with that. But we just can't have, how are we going to regulate hundreds and thousands of people who are growing their own crop? We don't know what's in it. We're setting limits. Are they living up to it? It's just, if we're going to have a regulatory system, we got to have it. Doesn't mean everybody can't be a producer, but not everybody can be a seller selling their own product. Sir?
On the note of the regularization, what is your opinion of home brewers, alcohol?
It's more a hobby, and there's some people. It's not a big enough problem that it really rises to any concern that I have. There's an awful lot of small brewers that have started at that, and they've now become kind of legitimate providers in the marketplace. Huh? I don't have any problem with that, and I don't have any problem with an analogous movement of marijuana folks. Sir?
So back to addicts. So what's your regulation on hard drugs like heroin and the crack cocaine? How do you regulate that? Are you for prohibition? Yeah, any prohibition against those kind of drugs? The ones that are dangerous, because pharmaceuticals, they can't sell those kind of products at all.
We're not going to put that in the regular marketplace. They would be legalized in a medical context. So like Switzerland, like England, for heroin addicts, there's a lot of evidence for heroin addicts, and I worked in methadone, which is a substitution kind of treatment. In England, what they did was just provide government heroin to heroin addicts as part of a therapeutic regimen. And their success compared to methadone and there's another drug I can't think of, was much higher. So, yeah, let's do whatever works. In terms of this treatment, anything we can do. In the Netherlands, they go out in buses and provide methadone direct to people on street corners. there's a whole raft of strategies called harm reduction. Clean needles is the most well-known of those, but a whole raft of strategies we can use to prevent some of these problems. I'm not for selling crack at the local 7-Eleven or Speedway. There's so small a number of people using it. We need to focus on those folks and get them into treatment. Decriminalize it, ma'am.
So you're still for criminalizing, like, I guess, like federally, like the hard drugs? Just
No.
not marijuana?
Decriminalize for personal possession. Okay? The only one thing I would criminalize was drug transactions. Because here's where the danger, this is what kills communities, are these street level drug markets. And our normal strategy is to, are there two people involved in these things, seller and a buyer? Typical law enforcement, who do we focus on? We focus on the buyers, and that's who's filling up the jails. My mom said years ago, it takes two to tango. Is our buyer in these situations any less liable than the seller? So I think if you're involved in a drug transaction, illegal drug transaction, sire and beller, it's a criminal penalty. And we're not going to make it a horrendous thing, but what we want to do is move it out of the public view. As we're sitting here, my guess is in a square mile area, there's probably 100 drug transactions going on that never come to anybody's attention and aren't causing any problems. Why is that? Because they're in somebody's apartment, in a residence, in a hotel room. So what? It's when you bring it out on the street and you've got a gun to protect yourself, and you're in that's when we really get into problems.
How do you feel about previously like highly stigmatized things, like I know we discussed highly addictive things like cocaine and opiates, and then also marijuana? How do you feel about psychedelic class substances in terms of religious use? And
it's not something that really I have strong feelings about one way or the other. If we look at the drug picture in this country, we've got heroin, crack, cocaine, methamphetamine, and marijuana. 90% of the problems are accounted for by those four drugs. So that's what I'm kind of concentrating on. There's such a tiny number of people that use psychedelics. They don't bring themselves to anybody's attention. I'm not sure what to do about it, or if we should even do anything about it. I really, it's not a problem that grabs
But
me.
you don't think it should be criminalized or?
No. All drug possession for personal use should be decriminalized. Oh.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you from Mr. Rahtz for coming. Thank you everyone for coming. And Students for Liberty and Young Americans for Liberty meet Wednesdays at 7 in Bentley 205. If you guys are interested.
Help yourself to this stuff.